There's a moment in life when you realize no one's coming to save you, your phone stops ringing, the crowd that once clapped for you is gone, and suddenly it's just you, your silence, and your questions. You start to wonder, did they forget me? Did I ever matter? You replay memories of people who once promised they'd never leave, and yet, here you are, standing alone in the echo of their absence. But listen to me. Just because the world forgot you doesn't mean heaven did. Just because doors closed doesn't mean destiny stopped moving. God didn't forget. He was watching when you broke down, when you held on, when you kept walking even though you couldn't see the road ahead. There comes a moment in life when everything suddenly goes quiet. The voices that once surrounded you fade away, and the applause that once echoed your name turns into silence. You look around and realize that the people who once believed in you, who once cheered for your dreams, have all moved on. It feels like the world has pressed pause on your story, leaving you standing alone in a room that used to be filled with noise. That silence hurts because you start to question if maybe you weren't enough, if maybe your purpose was temporary, if maybe you've already had your time. But what if that silence isn't a punishment? What if it's preparation? The truth is, not every quiet season is empty. Sometimes silence is where the real growth begins. When the noise of the world dies down, that's when you finally start to hear the voice inside the one that's been drowned out by the chaos. The world's applause can make you forget who you are, but solitude reminds you. It's in the stillness where your strength is rebuilt, where your spirit is recalibrated, where you learn that your worth was never tied to who noticed you, but to who created you. So when the noise fades, don't panic, don't chase the claps, don't beg for the crowd to return, because this silence is sacred. It's the space between who you were and who you're becoming. It's where character replaces ego, where faith replaces fear, where purpose replaces performance. The world may have gone quiet, but that doesn't mean your story is over. It means a new chapter is being written, one where you no longer depend on validation, because you've discovered something far more powerful than applause, peace. And peace, unlike applause, doesn't end when the crowd leaves. It stays, it strengthens, it saves. There comes a point when you start to notice the shift. The messages slow down, the support disappears, and the people who once stood with you seem to fade into the background. You replay conversations trying to understand what changed. You question yourself, wondering if you said too much, did too little, or simply stopped being worth their attention. But the truth is, you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes when the world turns away, it's not because you failed, it's because your chapter with them is finished. Life has a way of removing the noise when it's time for you to hear something greater. You see, when the world forgets you, it forces you to remember who you are. It strips away the comfort of validation so that you can finally stand on conviction. Because as long as you depend on people to remind you of your worth, you'll always live at the mercy of their opinions. The silence that follows their absence isn't rejection, it's redirection. It's God whispering, stop looking around, start looking up. He removes certain people not to isolate you, but to realign you. He shifts the scene not to hurt you, but to move you closer to what's meant for you. The world celebrates what shines. God shapes what's hidden. So if you feel unseen, it doesn't mean you've lost your light, it means He's refining it. The world's attention is temporary, but God's attention is eternal. People may forget your name, but heaven never forgets your purpose. Every time someone walked away, every time the crowd stopped clapping, something greater was happening behind the curtain. Because when human hands let go, divine hands take over. And in that moment, you realize that being forgotten by the world was the best thing that could have ever happened to you, because it led you back to the one who never forgets. While the world was busy looking past you, God was watching every move you made. When people stopped noticing your effort, He didn't. When you sat in silence with tears rolling down your face, He was there, listening to every unspoken word. There were moments you thought no one saw your struggle, no one understood your pain, and no one cared about the battles you were fighting behind closed doors, but He did. He saw it all. He saw the strength it took just to keep going. He saw the nights you wanted to give up but didn't. He saw the faith you held on to, even when it felt like everything was falling apart. And while the world forgot, God was writing, Quietly, carefully, he was crafting a story that only he could see. Every delay had a purpose. Every disappointment carried a lesson. Every moment you thought was wasted was actually building your character, preparing your heart, and positioning your life for something beyond your imagination. He doesn't rush the process, because true strength can't be built in comfort. It's built in the unseen moments, in the hours no one claps for you, in the seasons when no one believes in you. So when it feels like nothing is working, trust that something is, because God's work is never loud. It's silent, it's subtle, it's strategic. He doesn't need to make an announcement to change your life. He moves quietly, in ways that you don't notice, until suddenly everything makes sense. The same tears that fell in the dark will become the reason you shine in the light. The same prayers that seemed unanswered will become the foundation of your breakthrough. What felt like abandonment was actually preparation. What felt like loss was alignment. The world may have overlooked you, but God was never blind. He was working behind the curtain, building the version of you that would be ready when your moment finally arrives. Every heartbreak you've carried, every delay that broke your patience, every disappointment that made you question your faith, none of it was wasted. It all had a purpose, even when you couldn't see it. The pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation. Because purpose is never born in comfort. It's born in the fire of struggle, in the loneliness of waiting, in the quiet where no one claps but you still choose to believe. You weren't being buried, you were being planted. And when God plants something, it always grows back stronger, deeper, and higher than before. In those seasons where you felt forgotten, God was working in ways you couldn't understand. The rejection that broke your heart was actually His protection. The delay that made you cry was His way of saying, "Not yet, because I'm building something better." Sometimes we think we're ready, but God knows the weight of what we've prayed for. And so He uses pain to shape patience, silence to sharpen faith, and waiting to strengthen wisdom. Every unanswered prayer was a lesson in trust. Every lonely night was a test of endurance. Every closed door was a redirection to something greater than you asked for. Purpose has a price, and pain is part of that price. But if you look back, you'll see that it was the hardest moments that built the strongest parts of you. The heartbreak taught you empathy. The loss taught you gratitude. The loneliness taught you how to stand alone and still stand tall. You didn't just survive those seasons, you were sculpted by them. So now, when storms come again, you no longer break the same way, because you've learned that behind every struggle, there's strategy. God wasn't trying to hurt you, He was teaching you how to rise, how to trust, and how to carry the kind of strength that only comes from being broken and rebuilt by His hands. There will come a moment when the same people who once overlooked you will have to look again, and they won't recognize what they see. They'll see a version of you that didn't come from applause, but from endurance. The same silence that once broke your heart became the foundation of your strength. Every lonely night, every whispered prayer, every step you took when no one was watching, all of it was preparing you for this moment. You see, God never wastes pain. He turns every scar into a story and every setback into a setup for something greater. You were hidden, not forgotten. You were being refined, not rejected. And now, as you rise, you realize that you no longer need the validation you once craved. Because your confidence no longer comes from who remembers you. It comes from who restored you. What they called your downfall was actually your training ground. While they doubted, you developed. While they disappeared, you discovered who you really were. And that discovery became your power. It taught you that resilience doesn't come from recognition, it comes from surviving the seasons no one saw. The shadows you once feared became your shelter. The silence that once haunted you became your teacher. You learned to walk by faith, not sight, to believe even when there was no evidence. And that kind of strength, that kind of faith can't be faked. It's built through fire, through pressure, through pain. So when they see you now, they'll wonder how you did it. They'll ask what changed. But deep down, you'll know it wasn't luck. It wasn't chance, it wasn't them. It was God. The same God who watched you in the valley is now raising you on the mountain. The same silence that once felt like the end was actually the beginning of your rise, because what He builds in the dark always shines brightest in the light. When the world turned its back on you, heaven didn't. While people forgot your name, God whispered it every single day. He never stopped seeing you, even when you felt invisible. Every prayer you thought went unanswered was being stored. Every tear you cried was being counted. And every moment you felt alone was being held in His hands. You were never abandoned, you were being protected. Because sometimes God hides you not to punish you, but to preserve you. He keeps you unseen until the world is ready for the strength He's building inside you. There's a reason certain doors didn't open when you wanted them to. There's a reason certain people couldn't stay. God knew what was ahead, and He knew you needed the kind of growth that only happens in private. The waiting wasn't wasted time, it was sacred time. It was in those quiet, lonely seasons that your faith deepened, your patience expanded, and your vision became clearer. The world may have forgotten you, but heaven was writing your story line by line, moment by moment, with divine precision. And soon everything will make sense. The pain will connect to the purpose. The rejection will reveal its reason. You'll see that what you lost wasn't really lost, it was replaced by something eternal. When your breakthrough comes, it won't just be about success. It will be about survival, grace, and divine timing. You'll realize that every season of being unseen was necessary for the glory that's coming. Because God doesn't forget His children, He doesn't overlook the faithful. When He remembers you, no one can deny it. The same world that forgot your name will witness what happens when heaven remembers. And in that moment, you won't even crave recognition because you'll understand that the greatest honor was never being seen by the crowd, but being chosen by God.